What's up, True Crime World? You're here with Luminol on the Wall, and I'm Bevy.
And I'm Becky. And today we are talking about a really sad case. One, because it happens at Christmas, and two, an entire family gets killed. This is the story about the Wholaver family murder. My sister and I will be discussing the topic of sexual abuse. Listeners' discretion is advised.
So, Becky, I have a little disclaimer for everyone of my own.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I feel the need to tell people that I'm sick as shit.
Again.
Again.
Was this like the
It's like
fifth week in a row?
that I've sounded all janky.
Yeah, people are
And-
not going to remember that you don't sound like this.
Yeah. If you first tune in, like, I don't sound like a toad normally. It's all croaky, though. It's like I work with children, and they just carry so much sickness
So many germs everywhere.
all the time, and they sneeze in your face. They got no manners, no personal boundary space, anything. And yeah, if you hear me sniffle a lot, like, I'm sorry.
She's sorry.
But yeah,
You're sick.
I'm sick. I can't handle it.
It's too bad.
It's going on like 3 weeks.
You know,
one
this
after the other.
This reminds me of like the Friends episode when Phoebe's like all sick and she's like, hello.
Smelly cat, what are they feeding you?
Oh my God, that is such a nice rasp.
Is
in your
it turning
voice.
you on?
Well, not me, but like we're probably going to lose listeners when you feel better.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, we're going to be talking about a family who gets murdered on Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah, we share our
Super
Bev.
sad.
It's like the best time of the year, so it's completely unthinkable that this even happens at that time.
Yeah, you don't want to think about murder happening on Christmas.
And yet
The
here
birth
we
of
are.
baby Jesus.
How would he feel about that? Not good, guys.
Yeah. Don't murder people on Christmas Eve, okay? Any
other time.
Any other time, fine. No, just kidding.
We obviously know murder at any time is bad.
Yes, we do know that. But yeah,
Christmas, it's just not right.
it's just not right.
All right, Bev, let's get into it.
Okie doke.
7 a.m., December 25th, 2002. In Middletown, Pennsylvania, a call comes in to the police department.
Bring, 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 bring.
Oh, sound effects. Oh, we really upped our game here. Did everyone hear that? Oh, man. A woman named Mary Bittman was calling. She wanted a welfare check to be done at 817 North Street, Union. She was worried about her daughter and 3 grandchildren who didn't show up for Christmas. It had been a yearly tradition that Jean and her husband and 3 children would make the 2.5-hour drive to Johnstown to celebrate Christmas with Mary and Joe. However, this year was a little atypical because Jean had just separated from Ernest, so it was going to be Jean and her daughters. There was Victoria, who's 20, Izzy, 15, and 9-month-old baby Madison.
So when they don't show up, she's like obviously freaking out.
Yeah, Mary's worried. So she actually makes a call on Christmas Eve to the Middletown police to see if there was any road accidents or any delays that could be causing.
Yeah, she's
her
trying to
daughter not
find
show
a
up.
plausible explanation why her daughter did not show up for Christmas.
Exactly. There was absolutely nothing that stood out to the police. So they said, give us a call in the morning if they still didn't show up. Maybe they're just delayed or have a flat tire. You know, there's lots of reasons that they could have been.
Late, yeah.
So Mary does wait the night. When she wakes up Christmas morning, her daughter and grandchildren are still not there.
And of course, this is when she does the welfare check or requests it.
Exactly. She had also tried multiple times to call her daughter on their home phone.
To no avail.
To no avail. So as we assume. She's just worried and she needs the police stat. So at 7 a.m., Sergeant Robert Givler gets the welfare check call and he goes to the residence. He shows up and initially he doesn't see anything. He goes up to the door, rings the doorbell, no answer. Nothing looks suspicious, but he does his due diligence. He goes around back. And what he noticed was there was a couple windows on the garage door that had been broken. He found that a little suspicious, but, you know.
Again, that's like the only thing he's noticing.
Exactly.
Some broken windows.
Yeah.
Doesn't really indicate, you know,
foul play or
someone could be hurt or, you know, not well.
Exactly. Could have been just a snowball that went awry, smashed a
soccer
window,
ball, bang,
anything.
bang. I don't know. Why do I always say bang, bang? It's like
bang, bang to the window.
Jeez. Just call me Bang Bang.
It's like bam, bam.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of the Flintstones. It's like bam, bam, but like
bang, bang.
Bang, bang. No, don't.
Don't start that trend.
Don't
you don't
start
actually
it.
want that?
I didn't want that.
If you use that term one more time, that will be your nickname.
Oh, God. Okay.
So watch your mouth, girl.
Okay. I'll have to now with that threat.
Yes. I will never say that again. So what the sergeant did notice in regards to the garage is that it was latched closed, but he just wanted to test it out, and it was actually, even though it was latched, it wasn't locked, so he could manually lift it. He found that suspicious.
Right. Because now that's a easy entrance to the home, right?
Yes. And what he saw was the family's car was still in the garage. He thought, knowing that they should have been
gone to the Christmas celebrations.
Yep.
Why is their vehicle still in the garage?
Exactly. So he goes to the back door and he knocks. He makes his way inside because it's unlocked. He follows the hallway to the kitchen and he sees a female body laying on the ground, and she's cold to the touch.
Oh, God. Okay.
At that point, he radios back in. They need homicide detectives to get there ASAP. Along with the homicide detectives, the sergeant actually calls in for backup. He doesn't know what he's really walking into. And so when the backup unit gets there, they clear the main level to make sure it's all safe so that the homicide detectives can do their job and collect evidence.
Right. Obviously. I mean, that's great police work because every single show that I've ever watched, when people get in trouble, like, you remember Miss Congeniality? She just, like, breaks in or whatever.
Goes in alone.
And she gets, like, the whole place gets shot up. And, like, I think someone gets shot.
Should have waited for more backup.
How irresponsible. So anyways.
It's always the eager young cop wanting to do that in those shows, hey?
Yeah, this one must have been old and seasoned. You know, calls for backup because there could literally be a murderer in the house.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to be the next victim. So anyways, the police clear the main level when all of a sudden they hear something from upstairs.
Ooh.
So all the officers draw their firearms and make their way to investigate. What they find is absolutely shocking. They find a second deceased woman with a 9-month-old baby sitting in the bend of her arm as she's laying there dead.
Oh my God.
The baby is alive.
What? So what did they hear upstairs?
They heard the baby moving.
Oh my gosh.
Now, police quickly take the baby and bring it to get checked with the paramedics.
Yeah.
Just to make sure nothing is wrong. Fortunately, the baby is perfectly fine.
Thank goodness.
Yes, thank goodness. She's just a little dehydrated because she was left alone amongst these dead bodies for at least 30 hours.
That is insane.
I know.
Obviously, whoever killed this family wasn't, I don't know, felt some sympathy towards babies, right?
Yeah.
Didn't have the nerve to actually kill a small little babe.
Right? But they were okay leaving it to fend for itself.
That's true.
Which is kind of sad, but I guess there's a light to that in some way.
You might say a Christmas miracle.
A Christmas miracle. The baby is alive. So, Bev, at that point, the police weren't actually done searching the house.
Oh, yeah.
So they make sure the baby's okay, and they continue. They find a third woman sprawled across a bed in one of the bedrooms at the end of the hallway. What investigators realized was that all 3 victims had been shot in the head with a low-caliber weapon. Eventually, they were able to identify each woman. Jean Wholaver had been shot in the head in the kitchen while making coffee when she had been attacked. Victoria had been shot in the top of her head. They hypothesized that she had crouched over the baby to protect her.
Is that the sister?
Yeah,
or like the
oldest.
The oldest daughter.
Yeah.
It's 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then we have Elizabeth, who frequently went by Izzy, who was found laying across the bed with the gunshot wound to her left eye. And she had burn marks from where the gun had been fired.
So it must have been close.
Close range. She also was found with burn marks on her hand, implying to officers that she had also grabbed the barrel of the gun while it went off.
Oh my gosh.
Within their investigation, officers realized that a group of wires in the back of the house had actually been cut to make sure no one could call for help. So at this point, the police need to figure out who has done this horrendous crime.
Right, of course.
And where do they start? People closest to the family.
The dad. I mean, that would be a great suspect just because he's so close to the family and because he kind of has some motive if they got separated, right? But like, damn, if it is the dad, that is like, holy shit. Killing your family.
On Christmas.
Your children. That's fucked.
Bit of a dick.
Yeah, so I hope it's not him. Honestly, I hope it's just some random stranger that broke in and was fucking psycho.
Let's cross our fingers, I guess, there, Bev. Which would make it more scary, though.
It does make it more scary.
But I am going to enlighten you. As the police start digging into the Wholaver family, they learn that Jean and Ernest had actually separated because Victoria and Izzy had made allegations against their father, Ernest. Apparently, he had been molesting both his daughters. For Victoria, it had been years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, her dad. And when she found out that he was also molesting her sister Izzy, she completely broke down. She told her aunt, "It's happening to Izzy. It's happening to Izzy. He promised it wouldn't happen to Izzy. It's Dad who's doing it to us." So when Victoria had found out that it wasn't just her being molested and that her sister was also victimized as well, she and her sister told the police what was happening to them and filed formal charges.
Oh my gosh. So that's motive right there for the dad.
Yeah, he was in trouble because of that.
Yeah, and like the 2 girls who are dead in the home literally just pressed charges against him for like a heinous crime.
For sure.
Sexual assault. God. He's like a pedophile and a fucking incestual fucking weirdo.
Creepy non-dad.
Terrible.
Well, on top of it, Jean, the girl's mother, filed for a protection from abuse, a PFA, against Ernest. And because of this, he was arrested and forced to leave the family home. His bail was also set at $100,000.
Did he pay it to get out?
He absolutely did.
Oh my gosh, so he's just free roaming around. This pedophilic, incestual weirdo is just roaming town.
Yeah, he is. Now, as the conditions of his bail, he was not allowed to be near the house, his wife, and children. He also was not allowed to have any firearms in his possession. So, once Ernest was released on bail, he had nowhere to go. He had been kicked out of his home and, was like, he is not allowed back there for safety purposes. So,
yeah,
he decides to go live with his parents and his brother. At this point, the police realize, okay, he's number one person of interest, or at least the number one person we need to talk to about this.
No kidding. Like,
right?
All the people that are accusing him of, I don't know, sexual assault or like
filed charges
against him
are
dead. So
obviously in the police's mind, they're like, Like the sirens are going off like motive, motive, motive. Let's go talk to this mofo now.
Yeah.
So they decide to drive the 3 hours to Cambria County to question Ernest and his brother. What Ernest told the police is that him and his brother actually had been out spotting deer and coyote in the mountains of Cambria County. And they had been out doing that from 2 a.m. till about 9:10 a.m.
What a weird time.
That's
That's so weird. And the other weird thing about this is 2 a.m. to 9:10, that's about 7 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, it took 3 hours for the police to go talk to him from where the bodies were found. So we have 3 hours to get there to the family home, an hour to commit a crime, and 3 hours to come back.
Like perfect timeline.
Yeah, and who spots deer in pitch black?
And on Christmas Eve.
No
Maybe
less.
they just like have no Christmas spirit, but I'd be sleeping, get up early, open gifts.
Yeah,
it's see family.
It's the weirdest story and doesn't make sense.
Well, exactly. So I think the police were thinking the same thing. I don't actually know, but if we're thinking it, they probably were like, yeah, okay, guys. They decide to talk to Ernest's brother, Scott, who corroborated this story.
Okay,
So,
sure.
Said the exact same thing. They leave with that information. Now they have to go dig deeper into this family. And within their investigation, they come up with a couple other people that they need to talk to. One being a man named Frankie Ramos, who is actually baby Madison's father. She is not Ernest's daughter.
Oh.
Now, apparently, Frankie and Jean had a bit of a tumultuous relationship in their short time together, and he didn't initially believe that Madison was his daughter. It took a paternity test to prove otherwise. And prior to the baby and that paternity test, the police had been called to their home multiple times. However, he had an alibi on the 24th that was verified and cleared. He had been in the Reading area, which was about an hour and a half away from Middletown.
Well, okay, so it's not him.
It's not him. He is off the list. Another name that came up was Turner Higgins. He had actually been Victoria's boyfriend. They had recently parted ways, and they also had an up and down relationship. At one point, Jean had actually asked Turner, though, who worked for a locksmith, to change all the locks on the home. So there was a potential that he actually had access
To the house.
to the house.
Yeah.
So that's why he was in that mix. But he too had an alibi and was also confirmed by police. So he was cleared, taken off the suspect list.
Right. Not the killer.
Not the killer. So now the police are kind of back to square one. Who could have done this? Where do they go? They go back to Ernest and Scott.
Yeah.
But this time they go back with a search warrant.
Good.
And they have a search warrant for the residence as well as Scott's vehicle. When they looked inside there, they actually found a notebook in the trunk of Scott's car, and there was one note made in it, in Scott's handwriting, and it says, "We were out spotting deer and coyotes." Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds very rehearsed.
Yeah.
Say what I'm saying and lie to the cops.
No kidding. It was like he was on the phone with his brother, and his brother told him what to say. He wrote it down so he would remember exactly, and then be able to like
Repeat it to the cops.
repeat it to the cops verbatim.
Which is hilarious, I think, because if I was actually out doing something, I wouldn't need to write a note about it.
Yeah.
Be like, on December 24th, between 2 a.m. and 9:10 a.m., I was out spotting deer.
Yeah, you would just know that that's what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'd be like,
there'd be no need.
Obviously, I was out spotting deer.
Yeah.
Because, we do weird things like that in the country.
But that's suspicious.
A written note. Come on, boys. Like, don't be dumb. Just at least throw it out.
Yeah.
Like, do you think they would believe it? Sounds stupid.
It does sound
Oh
stupid.
my God. So when they find that, the police are like, oh man, obviously we got to talk to these guys again.
Yeah.
Something's
dimwits.
not right.
Yeah.
So in their questioning, the men take two very different approaches. So Ernest's approach is to remain silent. He listened to his Miranda rights and silence. He got his attorney, who eventually leaves with him. And then on the other hand, we have Scott, who sticks to the original story about the deer spotting. However, when he is confronted with crime scene photos of his sister-in-law and his two nieces, he completely cracks. He breaks down and confesses everything that he knew. He tells police that he drove Ernest to his Middletown home in the early mornings of December 24th, 2002, and how Ernest got him there was they were drinking, and he convinced Scott that he wanted to go and get his dog back.
Oh my gosh.
So even though Scott knew he wasn't supposed to be there, he did it because the man wanted his dog back.
Pulled on his heartstrings.
Exactly. I mean, that would pull on my heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't follow through with it, but it would pull.
Yeah, of course. And it's your brother too, right?
Yeah.
But damn.
Fatal error.
Fatal error.
Now, he told the police that they got there around 4 a.m. Ernest told him to park a little ways down the block and stay in the car. Ernest grabbed a couple items from the back seat and took off toward the family home. Scott tells police it was only about 10 minutes later when Ernest came running back from the house. He jumped in the car and he seemed really irritated. And he told his brother to drive them back to Cambria County.
Did he have the dog?
There was no dog, Bev.
There was no dog?
They're not in Ernest's possession anyways.
That's not why you went.
It wasn't. So Scott is driving back home the 3 hours. When they're almost home, Ernest requests that they drive a little further north into the woods. When they got to the woods, Ernest got out of the car. Scott noticed that when he left the vehicle, he grabbed a pistol and a shotgun and walked into the woods. However, when he returned, he did not have any of the guns on him. To prove his story, Scott eventually takes the investigators to the woods and showed where Ernest got out of the car. He obviously had no idea exactly where he went once in the woods because he stayed.
Because he stayed in the car.
He stayed in the car, yeah. So at that point, the police, they decide to search the woods. They have to see if they can find this pistol and shotgun. They were having a very hard time finding. There's so many little cracks and crevices that these guns could be in. So the police are getting really frustrated. They spend hours and hours searching. They wonder if Scott is just joshing them.
Right. Are there pistols and shotguns in the forest or are there not? We've been looking for how long? Like, how far could this guy have gone?
So the police think that they're going to have to call off the search and leave empty-handed. However, with a stroke of luck, in the very last possible moment of their search, the police officer looks down between some rocks and sees something orange in color. It was a rusted barrel of a pistol. They obviously collected it, and they ended up running the serial number found on the gun. It was registered to Ernest's uncle.
Oh.
Upon further investigation, when they analyzed the ballistics, it is confirmed that this was the murder weapon.
Wow. He literally got his brother to drive him to his family's home so he could murder them all.
Exactly.
Like, what a piece of shit.
Exactly.
That's messed up.
How terrible must Scott feel? Like, if you lured me with the, like, under the assumption I was helping you get your pet back.
Yeah.
But you actually
made
me drive you to a murder and you killed people. I would be so mad at you. I would never forgive you.
And that's his family too, right? Like, Scott's family. Those are his nieces. Like,
he's known them for 15 and 20 years.
Yeah,
he
no
loves
wonder.
them.
No wonder when he saw the photos, it just broke him.
He's like, that's
this
what
is
I
what
helped.
Damn.
Oh God, that would be the worst feeling. Like, oh, I could not imagine. I feel bad for him. Now, it is also said that in their investigation, Ernest and Scott's uncle said that they were not home within that time frame. So he was able to corroborate them not being home as well. With all the evidence mounting, Ernest is charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, and the state actually decides that they are seeking the death penalty. Scott is charged as an accomplice and held without bail in a plea deal. Scott agrees to plead guilty to 3 counts of third-degree murder and is given a 12 to 25-year sentence.
Scott?
Scott is.
What the fuck? I think that's messed up.
I actually do too. I mean, it's debatable though. Did he know? Or was he just lured there under false pretenses? And I think that would be the determining factor. And I feel really bad for him, kind of.
Like, I don't think he knew. That's just my opinion. But I honestly think it's kind of fucked up. It's not like he murdered them. Like,
No.
he wasn't there. He wasn't the one who pulled the trigger.
Well, exactly, right?
Like,
So,
come on. Like,
12 to 25 years?
you're going to just put a guy in prison because he drove someone to a crime? Like,
without knowing?
that's fucked. Even if he did, like, know 12 years for that, that's kind of fucked up.
Although he was aware of Ernest's bail conditions. So it was still a crime for him driving him there, regardless of if he was getting a dog or killed
I still
someone.
don't think that the punishment fits the crime on his part there.
I agree. I think it was a little harsh. But it is what it is, and he helped convict his brother. Now, while in jail, Ernest, he's desperate. He does not want to go to jail for the rest of his life, nor does he want to be on death row. So he actually attempts to hire a hitman through another prisoner and decides that he wants Frankie Ramos dead. So that's the that's the father of baby Madison. So he hires someone to go and kill Frankie Ramos.
What the fuck's the point of that?
Well, he wants it to look like a suicide, and he plans out that his suicide note would say that he was the actual killer.
Oh, so he's trying to pin it on him.
Exactly.
Wow. Good luck with that. Like, the ballistics in your gun matched the crime. Like, what are you
okay,
gonna...
Ernest.
Like...
very last ditch effort. Like, very bad attempt.
And it just shows you how fucking evil this guy is. Like, even in this, you know, he doesn't want to be held accountable for any of his crimes at all. And he's also trying to do another murder.
Exactly,
Like,
right?
What the fuck?
Now, Bev, he actually ends up speaking to the wrong guy because the prisoner he's talking to tells authorities right away. They're not messing around. They set up a sting and they're able to get a DEA agent from West Virginia to pose as the alleged hitman. Classic. I love a good sting. And the authorities, in that case, are able to record them discussing the killing using the code word tank to stand for Frank. So, obviously, they intervened and Frank is safe. He does not die. He also doesn't get pinned for the murders.
Not that I think it would have worked anyways, but...
Then we're like, oh, okay, let me guess who did this. Yeah, I bet it was a suicide. So at this point, Ernest thinks he's solving his problems. He thinks he's going to get away with it, but the charges are just mounting. He is still charged with the sexual offenses against his daughters. He has 3 counts of murder, and now he's also charged with solicitation. When the trial commenced, part of Scott's plea is that he was going to be a witness for the prosecution. So he has to testify against his own brother, which I'm sure in court is so intimidating, just seeing your brother sitting across from you.
And testifying against him? Yeah.
But he must know that he's doing the right thing because his brother killed his own family.
And sexually assaulted his own daughters, which is just so twisted.
That's fucked up. He testified in court that when Ernest moved back to his parents' house, he actually said that he would shoot Jean, just being angry. He actually said that to his family. On top of that, he told the courts everything that he had told the police about that night. After all the testimonies and evidence had been heard, the jury convicts Ernest of 3 counts of first-degree murder, reckless endangerment of baby Madison, burglary, as well as criminal solicitation. Sadly, he was acquitted of the sexual offenses against his daughters.
I mean, that does suck, but they're not alive to even give a testimony or anything, right?
That is exactly the reason why, Bev. Because
So
they
sad.
were not alive to testify.
Which is probably what he was intending for anyways, but...
Yeah,
like, that's
he
probably
clearly
why.
didn't think that through. Because although those charges were dropped, you're now in jail for murder, so...
Well, he just thought he would get away with it.
Yeah,
But...
fucking dickhead. So like Bev said, they were not there to give their statement. However, the sexual assault was going to stay on his record because they actually were able to take the girl's testimony from the pretrial and have it admitted into evidence under... So there's exception to the hearsay ruling.
Oh.
And they were able to still admit that into evidence.
Fantastic.
And it was only allowed to be admitted because it was the assumption that these girls were killed so that they were not able to give their testimony in their sexual assault hearing. Therefore, that caused their death, or was a reason for their death.
Right. It was his main motive for killing them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Keep them silent.
Ultimately, Bev, Ernest got what he deserved. He was sentenced to 3 death sentences. And although he was not found guilty of the sexual abuse charges, like I said, they stayed on his criminal record. Although I find that kind of funny because it's not like he's going out, he's not getting released from prison. He's not going to get a job. You know, like, he's not labeled as a predator outside and on a registry or anything like that. But at the very least, I guess they were able to keep it on the record.
I think they're just also trying to give justice to the girls, right?
Yeah.
Like, in the as much as they can.
Yeah, like, let it be known that you still did that even though you weren't charged with anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Now, Ernest did try to argue that in the future, with this on his record, it would hinder his chances of proving his innocence. But regardless, in 2019, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court held up Ernest's convictions and dismissed over a dozen issues that he had brought to appeal.
Good.
At this point in time, Ernest has used up all of his appeals within the state, and he is now moving on to appeal it from a federal level. Although he's already moved on to the federal appeal process, I have faith that this guy will never be released from prison. They have far too much evidence that supports his role in this crime. What is interesting, though, is that in Pennsylvania, they have had an unofficial moratorium on execution since 1999. That means that all executions of inmates had been suspended until further notice. And then in 2015, the state had actually made the moratorium official. So there would be no inmate, despite being on death row, that would be executed. And then more recently, on October 23rd, the state of Pennsylvania took one of many votes to abolish the death penalty altogether.
So he's not going to die.
He will never die in prison due to execution.
Well, I mean, he's still in there for the rest of his life.
He will never get out.
And there was no way that any of his appeals or whatever he's trying to do will work. No way.
No, guarantee that, right?
Yeah. He's an evil person.
Bev, this was such a sad case, and at Christmas time, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but unfortunately, this is all I got for today. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for sharing.